ever feel like you got lost on the way to that big confidence meeting? You know, the one everyone else seems to have gotten the memo for.
Uh-huh.
Well, today's deep dive is for those of us who'd rather recharge with a good book than, a room full of people. We're talking introvert confidence.
Yes.
And we're digging into articles, blogs, even found stuff on LinkedIn, all about how to really own that quiet strength we've got.
And it's such a good point to start with, right? We're not talking about some extreme makeover into like an extrovert.
Right.
It's not about becoming someone else. It's about, I guess, realizing how being an introvert is already an advantage.
So true. Like several of these sources even said that first big hurdle is just admitting, yep, that's me. I'm an introvert. Oh, and home of influence. They pointed out something I'd never thought of. People mix up introversion with being shy.
Oh, all the time.
And it's not the same at all.
Not at all.
It's more about how do you process all the stuff the world throws at you? And where does your energy come from? Like, what refills your tank?
And that's why, I think this whole growth mindset thing is so important here.
Oh, yeah.
One article mentioned it, and it really stuck with me because we tend to think, oh, I'm either confident or I'm not. End of story. But what if, and stick with me here, what if it's more like learning a new language?
Okay.
You don't just wake up fluent, right? It takes practice, maybe some awkward fumbles along the way.
Totally.
Confidence, it could be kind of like that. A skill you build.
Ooh, I like that shift already. So instead of, I'm not confident, it's, I'm getting there.
Yes. Exactly. Okay. But where do we even begin?
Okay, so home of influence. They had this idea. Instead of, trying to change your whole personality overnight.
Good luck with that.
Right. They said start tiny. Just notice when you have a negative thought and then try swapping it for a better one.
So it's like mental training. Instead of, I can't do this, it's how would I do this if I could?
Yes. You're getting it. See, those small shifts, if you do them enough, they can really change how you see yourself and how you handle stuff.
Okay, small steps.
Okay.
But then to actually feel confident, what else helps? Because I am all about that work smarter, not harder life.
Right. Me too.
So what's the shortcut?
Well, this next one, I bet we've all felt it. Home of Influence called it the power of passion. So think about something you love doing, hobby, whatever, that you get lost in.
Oh, yeah. When you're right in the middle of it, how do you feel? You're probably not stressing about confidence then.
Oh, well, 100%. Let me talk about podcasting. Suddenly I forget to be nervous.
Exactly. It's the psychology there. When you're passionate, it's like this internal motivation. You're not doing it for praise or anything outside yourself. You genuinely enjoy it. That boosts your self-efficacy, which is a fancy way of saying your belief in your own ability to, succeed.
So it's not just feeling good. It's trusting yourself because you're in your zone.
Oh.
Love it. Now, one article, it was by this guy, Scott H. Young. He was all about listening.
Yes.
As a skill. Which, yeah, everyone likes a good listener, but he meant it more seriously than that.
Way more. And especially for us introvert types, we tend to be good at observing anyway, right? So listening, it's like our superpower.
I like that. Instead of dreading a party, it's like time to use my superpowers. But seriously, how's that connect to confidence?
Because if you're really listening, you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're picking up on all these little cues. You understand people's point of view better. So when you do talk, it's way more impactful.
You're not just adding to the noise. You actually have something to say. Okay, so listening helps us figure out the vibe. But what about when it's our turn to talk? Some of us, not naming names, but public speaking is not our jam.
Right. Well, Home of Influence had tips for that too. They said, even if we're not the loudest voice in the room, finding how we communicate best is key. If writing things down first helps you organize your thoughts.
Do it. So it's not become a different person 101, it's play to your strengths, even in how you talk. I like that.
Exactly. And sometimes, this is going to sound weird, but even how we present ourselves, it can affect how confident we feel on the inside.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me my outfit choice impacts this? Okay, got to hear more about this.
Oh, okay.
We were unpacking this whole outfit thing because I got to know, what's the science here? We're not just talking fashion tips, right?
Right. It's called embodied cognition. And basically, our brains and our bodies, they're way more connected than we realize.
Okay.
Think about how you feel when you're kind of slumped over versus standing up straight, head high.
Huge difference.
Right. Your posture alone can change your whole vibe.
Okay, that's wild. But so then getting dressed up, it's not just about other people. It's almost like tricking your own brain into feeling good.
Yes. It's like sending yourself a signal, hey, we got this. And that actually reminds me of something else. 10 tips to be more social. As an introvert, talk about your people, like having a good support system.
Because sometimes you just need someone to hype you up, like remind you how awesome you are when you forget.
Exactly. And both that article and Home of Influence mentioned keeping a journal. But here's the thing. It's not just about writing stuff down. It's what you're writing.
Oh, okay.
They said try focusing on what you've accomplished. Instead of all the self-criticism we tend to do, shift it to, like, self-compassion.
Oh, that's so true. It's
Yeah.
easy to get stuck on what we didn't do. But if we actually celebrated the wins, even the small ones,
It retrains your brain, right?
yeah, to focus on the positive.
And when you do that, your confidence gets a boost, too, because you're literally building this, like, evidence log of all the great stuff you've done.
I love that. Okay, but then this other thing, 10 tips, said, it threw me for a loop. They said watching how extroverts act can actually be helpful.
I know, right? Sounds counterintuitive.
Because my instinct is to, like, run and hide when I see an extrovert in their natural habitat.
Totally. But it's not about becoming a copycat. It's more like, imagine you're watching, like, a master chef.
Okay.
You're not going to make the exact same dish, but you might pick up some cool techniques.
Oh, that makes sense. So maybe I've got this coworker, super outgoing, great at networking. I'm not going to, like, steal their personality.
Please don't.
But maybe I can pay attention to how they start conversations or make people feel comfortable.
Exactly. It's about adding tools to your toolbox, not throwing out your whole toolbox and starting over. And speaking of tools, this next one's vital, especially for us introverts. Both 10 tips and 11 tips on how to exude confidence as an introvert. We're big on alone time.
Yes. Like, can it finally be known? This is not being antisocial, it's self-preservation.
Right. It's how we recharge. So it's not selfish, it's not strategic.
Right.
You take care of you so that when you do interact, you're at your best.
Mm.
And speaking of putting your best self out there, I found Al-Wujud's take on self-image really interesting.
Self-image, okay. That's a big one. And I think that's where, honestly, a lot of us introverts especially, we get tripped up. Like, what did Al-Wujud say about that?
So they made this point, and it really hit home for me. It's like sometimes how we see ourselves, it gets all warped, you know? We're way harder on ourselves than we'd ever be on anyone else.
Ugh, it's that saying, right? We're our own worst enemies.
Exactly. And Al-Wujud was saying, instead of focusing on all the things we think we're not, what if we flipped it?
Okay.
Like really focus on our good qualities, things we've achieved, even if to someone else they seem small. To us, they matter.
So it's like consciously changing the story we're telling ourselves. Instead of, ugh, not good enough, it's, hold on, I am capable, I've done things, and those things are worth celebrating.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing, hey, we have worth, just as we are. And that actually connects back to something Home of Influence talked about, the fear of failure. It holds back. But they had this cool suggestion.
Ooh, I'm always up for a good mind trick. Lay it on me.
What if, instead of being terrified of failing, we thought of it as dot practice? Like every time things don't work out, it's just a chance to learn something and do better next time.
Okay, I can see how changing your perspective like that could make a big difference for confidence. Because if you're not so scared of messing up, you're more likely to, like, actually try things, take risks.
Exactly. And you're more free to be yourself, put yourself out there. You know, it's like that quote, all the magic happens outside your comfort zone.
So true, but so much easier said than done, right? Like, how do we get comfortable with being uncomfortable, asking for a friend?
Right. It's a process. But how to gain confidence as an introvert, they had some really practical tips, especially for work stuff. Like if you know a meeting's coming up, ask for the agenda beforehand.
Oh, that's smart.
That way you've got time to like gather your thoughts, get prepared.
Yeah.
Makes it way less intimidating to speak up.
Oh, 100%. I'm always scrambling last minute to organize what I want to say. So being prepared is huge. What else did they say?
They also talked about this idea of like owning your seat at the table. And I think especially for us introverts, that's huge because we can downplay our accomplishments or feel like we got to shrink ourselves to make room for others.
All the time.
Right. So it's reminding ourselves, no, our voices deserve to be heard too.
Yes. We matter.
Exactly. And it's not about trying to talk over everyone or becoming someone we're not. It's just knowing we've got something to contribute, even if it's just like one really insightful comment.
Quality over quantity. Thoughtfulness, not loudness.
Exactly. And, you know, as we're wrapping up here, it really all comes back to this. Being an introvert isn't a weakness. It's about realizing that quiet strength we have, it's valuable in our personal lives, at work, everywhere.
I love that. So to everyone listening out there, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. Embrace that introverted awesomeness, hone those listening skills, they're superpowers, I'm telling you, and find your own way to shine.
Beautifully said. And remember, confidence, it's a journey, not a finish line. Be kind to yourselves, celebrate every little win, and never stop exploring who you are and what you're capable of.
Love it. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What's one small act of introverted confidence you can embrace today? Until next time, keep diving deep.